Well, hello everyone. This is your faithful friend Sandra Graves, and welcome to The Code. Anyway, don't forget that we are here every Thursday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, whenever God allows. And if you're an expert in a particular area, please send us an email to info@envivoassociates.com. Again, info@envivoassociates.com. And the whole goal about the code is really that we all have a lot of negative belief experiences, and we feel that just because we had bad experiences that they're not going to get better. But who better than someone that have experienced a lot of struggle, someone that have experienced different tribulations in his life and have been able to overcome them with a smile. This is who we're going to be talking to today. A very powerful man. And you know why I say powerful? It's because I believe anybody that has been down and kicked by life and is standing and smiling and being grateful, that's a powerful person. And that's the reason why I want to introduce you guys to Vaughn Ripley. He is going to talk to you about maximizing your life. I was just talking to him a little bit, and it was really pleasant to talk to him. He didn't fight me through the whole conversation, and it was really trying to understand what is it that we was going to do versus thinking that he knows everything. Because anyone that believes that they know everything, they don't know anything. So let's get to Vaughn, and he's going to tell us about himself. He is an inspirational speaker. Not like most people that call themselves motivational speaker. He's an inspirational speaker, and that's what he's going to do. Take his life and make sure that through his stories, he's going to try to inspire you. Okay, Vaughn, it is all yours. So tell us about you before we get into the nitty-gritty of your story.
All right. Hey, Sandra, I really appreciate you having me on. It's very exciting to be here with you. So yeah, you nailed it. I like to call myself an inspirational speaker, and people have asked me a lot of times about motivational speaker, but I truly believe that the only person who can motivate you is you.
That's right.
There's nobody else on this planet. Now, I can help to inspire somebody, but I can't motivate them. That's
right.
Up to themselves.
That's right. I agree completely with that statement. Totally. So tell us about you. How is it that you inspire others? I was reading a little bit about your story, but instead of me talking about it, it's never going to be the same. Tell us about your story.
I guess really the whole thing that makes it inspirational is everything kind of brought together. I was born just like everybody else, and it was back in 1967.
Oh, that's a long time. No, I'm joking.
Hey, it's these gray hairs that give it away. So I was born with mild type A hemophilia, and hemophilia is a bleeding disorder. It essentially means that if I have a trauma or some kind of bad injury to my body will not stop bleeding. Mm-hmm. And so eventually that would lead to death, because I would bleed to death. Fortunately for me and for thousands of others in my lifetime, the medical professionals have figured out how to prevent the bleeds from happening by giving us factor VIII. And so the way that I found out that I had hemophilia was back when I was born, my umbilical cord fell off and it wouldn't stop bleeding. And the doctors, they thought that was kind of strange, but they didn't think it was that weird. And so they kind of let it go. And then 18 months later, I had my adenoids removed. And when I had my adenoids removed, again, it wouldn't stop bleeding. This time it wouldn't stop bleeding for days. And doctors had to put silver nitrate on there to curb the bleeding. And that's when they decided to test me. And at the time, they found out that I was deficient in a factor, a protein in your body called factor VIII. And that's what determines that I have hemophilia. And for my family, it was a pretty exciting news to hear that there was hemophilia in the family, because I had several cousins and uncles who were also experiencing bleeding problems but didn't know why. Mm-hmm. For them, it was a good experience, but in my household, especially for my mother, it was very tough, because hemophilia is transmitted down to the son by the mother. So when mom found that out, that was tough for her to handle. On top of that, back when I was a kid, we didn't have a factor at home. Nowadays, the kids are fortunate; they get to keep their medicine at home and they can treat themselves at home. However, when I was a kid, we had to go to the emergency room. And it wasn't even the local emergency room. It was several cities over because that was the only one that had the products that I needed. And so it would take, an hour to get to the emergency room. And then obviously, just like everybody else, we had to sit and wait in the waiting room. And after that was done, I got in, administered, saw the doctor. And then they started a thawing process because Factor 8 back then was frozen. And so since it was frozen, it took about an hour to an hour and a half to thaw it. So, and once it was thawed, it came out in a big bag and it sat above me. You guys all know the IV drip, and it dripped one drop every 3 seconds. And so I sat for the next 60 minutes to 90 minutes watching it drip my medicine. And then when I was all done with that, then doctors made me sit around in the hospital because they were worried about adverse reactions or some kind of allergic reaction to the product that I was getting. All in all, a trip to the ER would take around 8 hours. And this was like every weekend because, I'm a boy, and as a kid, you roughhouse and you do crazy things. And I ended up having bleeds pretty regularly, weekly. And so my mom and I would drive to the hospital and spend around 8 hours during that time. So this was a very hard situation on my family. It was also really hard on me. So my doctor, he never told me the things that I could do. It was more about the things that I couldn't do. And as a child, when you hear things that you can't do, that's very hard. I was told all the different sports that I couldn't do, all the different kind of activities that I couldn't do. And not to mention, a lot of times when I was having bleeds or issues, I would have to sit for an entire day with ice on my knee or my ankle, and it would be elevated. And the funny thing is, like, my mom thought she was being sweet. She moved our sofa in our living room right next to the big window, the bay window that we had, so that I could see outside to my friends who were playing. And, she was doing that for sweet reasons. She thought that maybe I would enjoy seeing my friends play. The truth of the matter is, that was really hard on me too, because here I was trapped inside the house with my leg elevated and ice on it, watching my friends play.
Yes.
So that was really tough.
Yes.
And then there was also a little bit of bullying. There were kids, especially in middle school, that liked to punch me because they wanted to see me swell up, because they were all fascinated by the kid that would bleed. And so there was a little bit of that, but for the most part, I think
you would bleed just because someone touched you, or they had to touch you strongly, punch you. How?
A punch. So yeah, they would punch me, and I mean, these weren't terrible kids. It's just kids are kids, and so they didn't see it as bullying, but I definitely did. I was a little guy,
yes.
And so my doctors had told me that I couldn't do any kind of physical activity, so I was an extra little guy and weak, and so I was easy to pick on.
Yeah.
And I got used to. I finally grew into who I was, and I thought I had figured all that out. I was coming into my own, and I was a happy person finally as I became a teenager, and then. My family doctor, when I was a teenager, called me and my parents into his office, and he explained that I had contracted hepatitis C and HIV through tainted blood products that I was receiving. So essentially, the medicine that was keeping me alive actually gave me HIV and hepatitis C, which was essentially back then a death sentence.
Wow.
And as a matter of fact, when my doctor told me and my family, he also told me that I had fewer than 2 years to live.
Wow.
2 years. I was devastated.
And how long ago was
my
this?
family.
And
I'm sorry, what was that?
They gave you 2 years, but how long ago was that?
It was just over 30 years ago.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Wow.
God is good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a tough time, though. I mean, it was definitely a dark time for me. I spiraled into a dark place.
Yes.
I was afraid to tell people that I had HIV because I mean, you're much younger than me, but you still know about the
No,
stigma
I was
associated.
1970. That not that much. I'm up there too.
Well, you look much younger than me.
Thank you.
So there was a terrible stigma associated with the HIV, and everybody was afraid of it and everything. As a matter of fact, in my neighborhood, local kids threatened me, and we had my neighborhood swimming pool. They publicly humiliated me by kicking me out of the pool in front of my peers, and my parents also received death threats over the phone. You know, we didn't have caller ID back then, and we didn't have even star 69 to be able to call the person back. Yeah. So people could use the phone anonymously.
Yes.
And my parents even received a threat to burn our house down.
Wow.
And these were all very tough things for us. So like I say, I kept it hidden. And I didn't talk about it.
You're giving me goosebumps here. Ooh.
Well, it was tough. And
yes.
And I'm a little bit ashamed to say that I allowed that dark time to affect me pretty bad, and it definitely took me into a bad place. I went through struggles with substance abuse, and I even had thoughts of suicide. Yeah. I struggled, and it was very tough for a while. Yes, yeah. But, you know, the 2 years, they came and went. And after I didn't die after the 2 years. And as a hemophiliac, I held my doctor on a pedestal. So I believed him when he told me that I had 2 years. And the fact of the matter is I made it past those 2 years, so I started asking myself questions. And Sandra, I believe that questions are the things that can either make or break us. I believe that questions are what bring us to forks in our road. And I asked myself a very serious question, and that question was, if I am not going to die, do I want to keep living my life like this?
That's right.
And I knew immediately that the answer was no. It was clear to me that this was not the life that I wanted to lead with the substance abuse and all of the brooding and the problems. So
I want to pause you there because I want you to ask that question again so that they can hear it. And that question is not only something that he asked himself, it's a question that you should be asking yourself. Could you repeat that question?
Yeah, so I asked myself, if I'm not going to die, is this the way that I want to live my life?
That's right.
And like I said, I believe that questions are the root of everything that we do in our lives. And you can choose the questions that you ask. You know, I talk to folks all the time, and I ask them the kinds of questions they're asking themselves. Say, for instance, I have a friend who wants to lose some weight. And I ask him, what kind of questions are you asking yourself? And he says, I look at myself in the mirror and I say, why are you such a slob? Why are you having so much problems with losing weight? Why do you this? Why do you that? And they're beating themselves up as opposed to asking the right question, a much better question. Like, for instance, what can I do in my life to improve it? Do you see the difference in those two questions? I mean,
yeah,
those
one
are two
destroys you and the other one inspires you.
Exactly. And the way that you answer your questions is the way you're going to lead your life.
That's right.
All of us.
That's right. I love that you said that.
And so from that point forward, I picked myself up. I dusted myself off and I cleaned up my act and I started making a success of myself. I did a lot of things in my life to improve myself. I improved the people who were in my life and around me, and I surrounded myself with positive people. And I feel like that's the primary reason that I'm still here today. You
know, I love that. I mean, you're listening to his story right now, and you're just like, but it wasn't the that is the story. It's the fact that he was able to analyze his life and decide what he wanted to do with it. He can't stay and be a victim. Oh God, why did you do this to me? My life is so hard. He didn't. Yes, he went through some struggles like all of us do. I try to take my life, I don't know how many times myself, you know, but it's to get to that point where it says, if I keep doing the same thing, I'm going to get the same results. And that's why he came to that conclusion. He wants a better life. And if you want a better life, you have to come up with the right question. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I believe that everything that we do comes from a question.
And I totally agree with that. And before we continue, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go to a commercial break and we'll be right back.
All right.
Sandra Graves y oye, quería decirte que te conectes con En Vivo Live todos los martes aquí en YouTube. We are going to be here every Thursday at 7 p.m. with different guests bringing you different information. Con invitados especiales con tu anfitriona, yo, Sandra Graves. No te olvides, subscribe. Suscriba y comenta. The code is presented by En Vivo Associates, our affiliates, our sponsors, and of course, our guests. Our guests who present you with the tools that you need to identify the success you desire. If you would like to be a guest in this show, or if you have any comments or questions or any show idea for us, please send us an email to info@envivoassociates.com. Thank you for tuning in to The Code. Yeehaw! Welcome back to The Code with your host Sandra Graves, and we are with a powerful man. I call him powerful because I believe everybody that fights this world, we were not born and saying life is going to be easy for you, but only the powerful people decide that they're going to fight and they are going to do the best to live the best life that they can live with asking the right questions. Just like my friend have said here, ask yourself the right question. And that's why we're going to continue with this topic, because I want him to come up with more questions for you, because it's very important for you to write it down and think about what is the right question for you. You know, and remember, before I went on the break, we talked about questions that destroy you. If you see that the questions are not helping you, don't ask the same question. Change it. Change it if you have to 1,000 times, but change the question until you get the right results. Is that correct, Vaughn?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and one of the most important questions that you ask yourself, or that you can ask yourself, is why? You know, and a lot of people overlook that question. And I think that it's very important in our lives to ask ourselves, why, first off, why am I here?
That's right.
Why am I trying to do the things that I'm trying to do? Mm-hmm. Why do I want to wake up in the morning and accomplish special things? Mm-hmm. And once you know what your why is, that empowers you. This is a question that has been asked since the dawn of mankind, and not everybody knows how to answer it properly. But if you figure out how to answer your why, mm-hmm. you'll be unstoppable, and you'll do amazing incredible things. It's definitely the way to maximize your life, is to find out your why and then figure out how you're going to accomplish things that will keep you on track for living your life toward achieving everything associated with your why.
Well, I'm going to play the devil's advocate here. And you say, find out your why. And I'm going to say, I've been trying to do that forever, and I haven't got there. I have done everything, and I still don't know my why. I don't know what question to ask. For you, it's much easier because your life was very, very difficult. But I don't have a difficult life. Everything has been given to me. It's actually, so I don't understand how you people that struggle in life have the why question. I don't know what my why is. I get that a lot.
And you know what? That's a valid point, but the easy thing that you can do is you can break it down into smaller pieces. We don't have to do the huge overall why picture initially. Initially, you can just start with little whys, mm-hmm. and those little whys can turn into things that are bigger. I have two beautiful, darling little children, and they're a big part of my why. But I'll tell you what, there's also a part of me that truly knows my why also involves me. Mm-hmm. And I'm not doing that for selfish reasons. And I think that a lot of people, they're afraid to say, my why involves me, because, oh my gosh, heaven forbid we're going to be selfish. You know, but the truth of the matter is, some things in your life you do have to do for you, because if you don't straighten you out, if you don't fix you, how the heck are you going to be any kind of inspiration for the people around you? You got to fix you. And so part of your why is you.
He told you. But it is true. I like the way you said, how the heck are you going to help anybody if you don't fix you? And that is the reality. A lot of people are trying to take the mask off of themselves to help somebody else But then they're like, come on. Breathe, breathe, and then pass it to someone else after you have taken enough breath. And you know, that's something that a lot of people do, mostly women with their kids. They have this thing that they breathe, my kid, breathe, and then they destroy themselves. But then you are gone, and now I'm lost because you didn't try to breathe for yourself. You're teaching me how to breathe, something that you didn't even know. So, you know, just I like that you mentioned about that, about what the heck to find yourself. So tell us more. Tell us more. Let me quiet down here. We're just hard.
So sometimes you'll find that I'm fairly candid. I don't mind being a little bit blunt. I don't.
I love it. I love it. That's the reason why I created this show, because on TV they're gonna be like, oh, you can say it like this. Oh, and what is the next question? And that's what we have. Oh, we're going to go to a commercial break. And they edit the video. No. We are humans, and we should be able to talk the way we want to. And that's the reason why I keep mentioning the heck. Because to let people know there's no such thing as what you should do and what you shouldn't do. As long as you are comfortable with who you are, that's what matters.
So Sandra, after you figure out your why, or at least part of it, the next steps, and something that's really important, I believe, I follow a Japanese philosophy. It's called Kaizen. And what Kaizen essentially is small and incremental improvements on a daily basis. So I'm not a big believer. I know we do like short-term, mid-term, long-term goals. I'm not really a big believer in that. Now, there's a couple people right now going, oh,
what are you saying?
I believe, so to me, long-term goals, I call them dreams. Because, you know, my long-term goals are going to change. Because if I set a 5-year goal, in 3 years, my life will have changed so much that 5-year goal might have completely shifted. So I like to think of it more along the lines of, this is a dream, and this is a dream in a direction that I want to go. And how can I get there? And then my midterm goals, so that's sort of like, that's my version of a long-term goal. What I really focus on is 90 days. What can I do today? Not tomorrow, not Monday, today, to improve myself. And the truth of the matter is, if we try and keep pushing things off, you know, I know a lot of people like to say, like, I'm going to set New Year's resolutions. Well, what? That's not until January 1st. Why don't you make an adjustment today?
That's right.
Because that's when you're going to do something. You know, gyms make more, gyms where you work out, they make more money between January and March than they make for the rest of the year. And there's a reason for that. Because people assume that they're going to fix themselves with their New Year's resolution. They join a gym and then they fail because they didn't do it properly. I believe the proper way is to daily improve yourself. You got to ask yourself in the morning, what do I want to fix about me today? And then you got to work on that during the day. And then that evening, you have to actually assess how your day went. You have to ask yourself questions again, a daily question, which is like, what did I set out to achieve today? And did I achieve that? And if I didn't, what can I do tomorrow when I wake up to make sure that I am stepping in that direction? And then the next morning, it's the same process, and it's every day. The trick to this is consistency.
That's right.
If you just set these grandiose, great goals, you know, I mean, that's great and everything, but that doesn't mean diddly squat if you're not doing anything to achieve it.
That's right.
If you want to make yourself better, start now. I'm talking about now. I'm talking to you guys right now. I'm talking to you right now. You want to make yourself better, write down the thing that you want to make better and do something now to make that change.
Write it down.
Yeah, you got to write it down.
So, you say 90 days, right?
Yes.
So what they should be doing in 90 days?
Yeah, and so this is all personal preference, right? For instance, if I'm trying to get a promotion at work. You know, it's very easy. In a 90-day timeline, I can do enough hard work and get myself noticed and do things that can make a difference at my work.
Okay.
I know that. I know beyond a shadow of a doubt. I've been an executive at businesses. I've been a manager for decades, and I know what we're looking for in people. And if people, they can show me inside of 90 days.
That's right.
Say, heck, you could show me in 15 days that you're material for the promotion. And then if you keep that up and you're consistent for 45 days, I guarantee you, you'll get that promotion.
That's right.
So you look at something like that. Another thing might be, in 90 days, I want to lose 15 pounds. Do you know 15 pounds is not hard to lose? Mm-hmm. Most people set a 5-year goal and they say, I want to lose, I'm going to throw this out there, I want to lose 120 pounds. Think about what I just said there.
Yes.
That's like a person. I want to lose 120 pounds is a scary goal.
Yes.
Don't set that kind of goal for yourself.
Yes.
Set yourself a goal that you can do. Yes. How about I want to lose 10 pounds? Yes. Anybody can lose 10 pounds. I could lose 10 pounds in 4 days if I had to.
Yes.
Anybody can lose 10 pounds. So set yourself little goals that can be achieved over a shorter amount of time. And then once you achieve that, set another one.
That's right.
And then do it again.
Right.
And do it again. And before you know it, we will hit that 120, but it won't have been this enormous number that was terrifying. It'll be nice, small numbers.
Exactly. And I like what you said there, so I'm going to illustrate it there. Here, to them. So this is your little goal right here, and your little goal right here, and all these little goals that you create. Yes. And guess what? They turn into this big goal that you have achieved because you have done it in step 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and you create your dream.
Yes,
that's
exactly.
What you call it, the dream.
Everybody's heard how you eat an elephant, right? If you were gonna build a house, right, you're gonna use a blueprint, and that blueprint is actually broken down into sections. There's just little sections, parts of a room in that blueprint. You never even really see the whole house except for when you were dreaming it, if you will.
Yeah.
And what the builder sees is the closet that he's currently working on. He doesn't see the full house. If he saw the full house, it's a little bit overwhelming.
Yes.
But if he sees the closet he's working on, he completes the closet. That's the same thing with our lives. You want to build a house in your life, you got to build it little pieces at a time.
That's right.
So you got to have sections.
Yeah. So if you want to find out more about Vaughn Ripley, the website is right here at the bottom, and you can follow him. Remember, he is an inspirational speaker, and he can be available for your event. So whatever setup you want, you just contact him, and he will give you the details. And just remember, one thing that I want to leave you with is that wherever you are in your life right now, it can get better, but it starts with your head. You have to believe it in order to make it happen. And thank you so much for being with us today, Vaughn. And can you say one last word of motivation? Something, no, let me rephrase that, of inspiration. So,
all right, I've got something for you guys. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
More than 30 years ago, my doctor told me I had fewer than 2 years to live. I live with a disability that would blow most people away, right? And yet I've published my autobiography. I'm an executive in the computer field, and I do a ton of other things, including being on the city council, Cub Scouts. I do everything, right? And the question I have for you is, if I, an HIV positive hemophiliac, can do all these things, what can you do?
That's right. And we're going to leave it right there. What can you do?